with podcasting, if someone has a podcast and they've just gotten started, or they maybe had it for a while and it's plateaued or thinking about getting into it, where is podcasting right now? Like, what's the landscape look like for podcasting? I've recently heard some people say, podcasting is plateaued, and no one's starting new podcasts, and if those who are, they shouldn't have them, and negative. And I've also heard more in my camp where if you know how to use the tool, your audience, and you have a really good narrative, there's a lot that goes into podcasting that makes it really good and valuable for the audience. But I think those podcasts that are showing up and are intentional about creating valuable content, I say pour gas on the fire, So I'm curious to know, like, where do you feel like the landscape of podcasting is, and where is it going for 23?
If you look at all the hype that it's generated over the last couple of years, with Spotify making major acquisitions, Joe Rogan getting acquired, and all that kind of stuff, the buzz has kind of died down a lot, and I'm okay with that, honestly, because podcasting still, it's not in an infancy. I mean, it started all the way back in 2004. I mean, podcasting's been around a freaking long time. Longer than social media almost. I mean, so I'm not going to get into that debate, but it's been around a long time.
No, I'm with you.
I've listened to them since 2007.
No, back in 2000, back in 2006, 2007, I was following multiple podcasts at that time when they kind of came on the scene. And one of them was Jason Calacanis, who's This Week in Startups. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but he started back around 2006 or 7. And he had so much value to offer and I was a young entrepreneur starting up. I was just eat it up. He's still doing that today, and I'm still listening to his podcast today. It's amazing. I mean, so to that point, it's been around a long time, but again, it's a mechanism which, if you're providing value, people are going to show up.
But it didn't get the hype that it's gotten until this last couple of years. And it's been pushed on by the pandemic because everybody was going digital. So that's kind of died down, but it's going to see its largest growth, maybe not this year, but in the few years after this year. Everyone's playing conservative this year. So we're going back, of course, to the things that worked well before for B2B, which is going to be sales-led motions, ABM, SEO, people, and of course, performance advertising. That's going to be what everybody's leaning back into because they're scared. And not because everybody's getting hit by a recession, but just everybody's a little nervous the other shoe's going to drop. So everybody's playing real conservative right now. So everyone's going back to that. A lot of my clients are really interested in turning their podcasts into ABM machines right now. So I'm like, okay, if that's what you want to do, and that's the strategy for your marketing department, a podcast is like a Swiss Army knife. It can accomplish so many different objectives, but not all at once. So if you want to do ABM, let's do ABM. Right. Let's make it a relationship building machine, genuine relationships, and also make great content with it. Let's do that. So I'm a lot of my clients are going in that direction. But where it's going and where Sweetfish is positioning itself for is, we know podcast is going to be, has to be beyond going, it has to be more than just interviews. You have to introduce a premise to the show to make it a little bit more unique and give it something that you can't get anywhere else. It has to have an angle and a way of treating it in order to make it interesting. We also think that a podcast is the best way to build a foundation for what we're calling a media brand, as in a separate brand from your corporate brand, but can actually become a separate piece. Because let's look at like journalism, for example, right? What do you do with journalism? Well, you find topics, you find people that are subject matter experts on those topics, you interview them, you craft a story out of the interviews. What are you doing with the podcast? You find a topic, you interview experts, and then you turn that into different types of content. I'm like, just use a podcast. Of course, there is a skill set to doing better journalism, and we should just study journalism as podcasts and learn how to ask better questions, how to find the story, how to find the angle, all those things. Just learn how to do those as marketers and use that as your basis to build a separate media brand and build a newsletter, but build content channels that are all specific to those, specific to the media brand. That way you can set a whole separate brand aside that can have a separate and broader positioning than your corporate brand, which needs to be positioned around your product, as it should. And the website should be optimized for sales. That's what you expect. That's what you hope for. Your media brand can be optimized for audience growth. It can be positioned around all the things your buyers love. It can be the source of information or entertainment or education or a mix of those, depending on what your ideal buyers actually want. And then you could just optimize that, grow an audience, and that becomes the thing that you can then advertise your company. You could plug your company into it real nice. Yeah. SalesFeed is a great example of someone who's on the cutting edge of this, from Vidyard. We're actually doing a series with them on B2B Growth right now, unpacking how they're doing it and how they built it. But SalesFeed it's sponsored by Vidyard, but it's separate from Vidyard. And the content marketers at Vidyard are different from the content creators working for SalesFeed. So we think that's the future, and that's where we're diving in right now. We're in the very beginning stages of trying to build that kind of media brand category along with other people who are on the tech side. We're hoping to become a service provider in that emerging category.